I read a lot of questions on the internet from people who are new to hiking or want to take it up as a pastime. So if you think that that fits you, listen in, because this one's for you. So for a lot of people, the prospect of starting hiking, especially hiking on your own, can be quite an intimidating thought. You know, the fear of getting lost in somewhere that you don't know is obviously a very human one, and one I fully empathise with. But today I want to talk to you about a few simple principles which I would happily give to anyone who's just thinking of getting into hiking or knows someone who thinks that they want to start getting out into the great outdoors. So we're going to talk about distance, we're going to talk about conditions, clothing and the equipment that you'll probably want, and we're also going to talk about your destination. So I think if we stick to these 4 topics, obviously it's a very broad topic, but hopefully you'll gain something from this video. So the first topic I think we should discuss is distance. Now, you may have ambitions to walk some tremendous trails. You might want to do the National 3 Peaks, you might decide you want to do a coast-to-coast walk, and those are all marvellous aspirations. But if you're just starting, it's definitely worth learning your limits. So I would say to anyone who's starting walking, make your first few walks about 4 miles or less. You'll start to learn your limits, and bear in mind as well that 4 flat miles will feel very different to 4 hilly miles. If you're going up and down a lot, it'll take a lot more out of you than if you're on a nice flat circular walk. Also, if you're walking with various people, walk that distance to the ability of the, I don't want to use the word weakest, but I can't think of another one, the weakest member of your party, and build up from there. So the second topic is conditions. So it's quite a broad topic. I'll try and keep it quite brief for you. Effectively, you want to be looking at the weather. Look at the weather forecast for the area that you're going to go walking in. If it's going to be extremely windy, or it's been very cold overnight, there's going to be ice or snow, torrential rain, I'd advise that you don't go out, put your walk off for another day. The worse that conditions are, or the worse that conditions get, make it much harder for you to walk. They will impair your decision making and potentially put you and other people in danger. Bear in mind as well, a lot of the rescue services that are out there in the mountains, like the mountain rescue teams, are volunteer led. These are incredible people, and we don't want to be putting those in danger. Also, the weather leading up to your walk as well, you want to keep an eye on that, because if you're travelling far away and you've been having some dry weather, that doesn't mean that your destination has. You know, you might be living somewhere relatively low and it's been nice and dry, but if you're going out into the lakes or the peaks, it's been raining a lot, it's going to get very boggy underfoot. Certain types of stone, like limestone, get very slippery, and again, could cause you some unnecessary danger. So it's well worth keeping an eye. Fair weather walking's, for me, the best. You'll see nature at its best. You'll see scenery at its best, and you should be able to enjoy it the best as well. So my next topic for you is clothing and equipment. When you first start looking at hiking and walking gear, you'll see a lot of it is extremely expensive. A lot of that stuff is really good stuff, but when you first start, you don't need to break the bank. The important thing is that you've got some good footwear. If you've got a pair of comfy walking boots already, wear those. If not, get yourself a pair of comfortable trainers that you don't mind getting a bit mucky, with some good grip on them. You don't want to be slipping and sliding about, and you want your feet to be comfy. With that being said, a pair of comfy socks as well is a must. Just for the conditions, if you're in the middle of winter, shorts and a t-shirt probably isn't too clever, especially if you get up on the top of a windy, blowy hill, in the same way that if you're in the middle of summer, a thick down jacket's not going to be your friend. I always carry a foldable Mac or Packer Mac in my backpack to help combat some of those sudden turns of weather that happen. And having said backpack, you're going to want one of those as well. Again, something just comfortable. It doesn't have to be expensive. Somewhere you can stick your layers if you've dressed a bit too warm, because you will warm up when you're hiking. Somewhere you can stick that Packer Mac, and somewhere you can put your water bottle as well, because you're going to want one of those. I always have my water bladder with me. You don't need one of those when you start out. Water bottle will do nicely. The same way you also want to make sure that you've got a bit of food. Some snacky bits will help keep spirits and your sugar levels up. Although if you're going a bit further, or if you're going over lunchtime, take yourself a packed lunch, treat yourself. Also, sun hat. You'd be surprised how quickly that sun can break through and how bright it can be. So take yourself a sun hat, they don't take up much space. And something else that a lot of people forget about is always take some cash with you. You'd be surprised when you're in the middle of nowhere, the amount of places that don't get phone signal or signal for card machines. So a bit of folding money won't go amiss. Also, get yourself some coinage, because a lot of car parks out in the countryside won't have card payment options. Also, if you find yourself in a place that has an ice cream truck, you can treat yourself and just carry on enjoying your day that way. So a topic I didn't mention at the beginning of the video is maps. Now this is one that is very near and dear to me, because I always carry a map on my walks. You will never ever run out of phone signal for a map. It'll never run out of battery. They're also very, very cheap, and you can buy waterproof maps from the Ordnance Survey. You can also buy, I have a little waterproof map case that, if you've watched other videos of mine, you'll have seen me with. Get a map of the area that you're walking in. They're not very difficult to read. There are tons of videos online. You can go on outdoor courses as well, learn how to read a map, but basically you just need to know how to work out where your footpath is, where you need to go, and a few landmarks around. Get yourself a cheap compass, get yourself a map, get yourself a map case. The whole world will open up to you when you can learn how to read one of those. You'll get yourself out to places that you would have never thought to go previously. You'll start going more off the beaten track, and you'll find these hidden gems that other people just don't know about. There are some beautiful places out there, but they just don't get seen by people because they're far off the normal beaten track. Now, when you're first starting, having said all that, I would say try and keep to the beaten track. We'll come to that in the next topic. So the final part of today's video is about the destination. Now, when you're going hiking, you're obviously going to want to see all these beautiful and wonderful places that we have, and rightly so. To start with though, I'd suggest that you keep more to the beaten track, go to the more popular areas. Today, for example, I'm walking through Chatsworth, which is one of the most busy and visited areas in the Peak District. The reason I say that for beginner hikers is that little knowledge is a dangerous thing. If you happen to get lost or come stuck with something, if you're in a busier area, within 5-10 minutes you're probably going to see someone coming past who might be able to help you out a bit. At the same time, tell someone where you're going. If you're intending to start going a bit more adventurous out in the hills or in the valleys or anything like that, you're soon going to come to places that you don't have phone signal. If you get stuck, it's important that someone at home knows where you are, knows when you should be back as well. That goes for all levels of hiking. Someone needs to know where you should be. Send text messages when you can to those back home, especially if you're going out for longer walks. I always say to people as well, when you start off on these more popular trails, either go on a linear route with a single destination in mind. So for example, start at the car park, walk 2 miles along a path, turn around and walk back again, or find yourself a lake or a reservoir as long as you keep the water on the same side, you can't really get too lost there either. Make sure though when you're doing these that you take your map with you, because these are great opportunities for you to study the map, see how everything interacts in the real world to that piece of paper in your hand. But most importantly, make sure that you enjoy your walks. Until next time guys, happy hiking.